What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. So we are going to dive a little deeper into these allegations against Jay-Z and P. Diddy. So NBC has done an interview with this anonymous, still remaining anonymous accuser, and it is looking worse and worse and worse. Not for Jay-Z, but for the accuser in this what is civil rape allegations case. Okay. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about several things that are major, major inconsistencies in the details of this case. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy on here giving my opinion. Okay. I am a college educated man, but I'm not a lawyer. But I think this is going to end up hurting the prosecution's case in a big way. Obviously, Tony Busby is becoming really, really well known as far as an attorney to the stars. He has according to reports, over 20 cases pending against P. Diddy at this point. Okay. So he is on P. Diddy like stink on shit, like white on rice. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about what these discrepancies are. Let's start with the biggest, first and foremost discrepancy, which is at that time, the accuser claims that she was 13 years old living in Rochester, New York, which is in the Buffalo, New York area. Obviously, very upstate. Okay. At that time, she claims that it was a bucket list item of hers to go to the Video Music Awards. Never really heard of a bucket list at age 13, but with that said, you can certainly understand how the Video Music Awards would be a cool thing to do as a 14-year-old. So, no harm, no foul there, okay? She claims that she had a friend who was 20 years old at the time drive her from Rochester, New York to New York City, okay? You can look this up. You're looking at a 5.5 hour drive, okay? She didn't have a ticket, and she admitted that she had not purchased a ticket in advance, obviously. So that's already a little bit sketchy. A 20-year-old woman, young woman, is willing to go pick up a 13-year-old kid, drive her 5.5 hours, and drop her off in front of the Video Music Awards location in New York City. All right, have a good time. I mean, already it's like, wait, what? What? Not meeting someone else there, not meeting a friend who also has tickets, not meeting another adult who has tickets, not going with a parent who has tickets, just 20-year-old friend who is friends with a 13-year-old. That's okay. I don't want to get hung up on these little details. I haven't even gotten started yet. Okay. So the biggest inconsistency that is coming forward so far is this woman claims that after the assault took place, she made her way to a gas station where she was visibly distraught. The worker, who was a female at the gas station, saw that she was visibly distraught, allowed her to use the phone there. And from the accuser's mouth, she said, the only person I trusted at that time was my father. So I called my father to come get me. NBC and the prosecution team has interviewed this father, and the father has no recollection whatsoever, none, of driving to pick up his daughter that night. Okay? And listen, this is a 5.5 hour drive. This is not, oh, I'm running down the street to pick her up at a friend's house. This is a 5.5 hour drive from Rochester, New York to New York City that he would have had to drive. And he does not remember that and has actually said out of his mouth certain things you would just seem to remember. I do not remember that. So the father is not corroborating her account of things there. He is saying he has no memory of going and driving 5.5 hours to pick up his daughter. Furthermore, her claim is that after he picked her up and they drove back together, that they drove in silence. He didn't speak about anything. That when she called him from the gas station, she said to him, "Dad, I messed up." I guess basically because she had snuck out of the house. She claimed that she snuck out of the window, so she didn't tell her family, her father, who she was living with at the time, where she was going, what she was doing. So she said to him, "I messed up. Would you please come get me?" So he drives 5.5 hours to come get her. Her claim is that on the way back, they rode in silence. She did not speak about it, not to her father at that time, nor to anyone else later. The father didn't ask her any questions. He didn't say, "What happened?" He didn't say, "Are you okay? Did something happen to you?" Listen, she previously said that the only person she trusted at that point in her life was her father. Okay. So apparently, she at least had an affinity for her father. At least her father apparently was somewhat good to her. Okay. I mean, he's the only person she could trust, right? She felt like she could trust her father. Now, I'm a parent. I'm not a parent of a female, but I'm a parent of a male. And one of my sons ever called me and they were 5.5 hours away and they had snuck out and they were clearly distraught and they said, "Hey, I messed up. Can you come and get me?" The 5.5 hour drive home would have absolutely not been in sheer silence. Okay. I would have been digging, trying to figure out what happened, what they might have gotten into, were they hurt, did something happen that we need to tell authorities about, all of these things. Okay, so if this is a loving, caring father that she can trust, I find it hard to believe that she would have driven 5.5 hours back with him without either one of them speaking about or saying anything about what happened. Now, it'd be one thing if she claimed that he asked the question and then she denied it because maybe she was ashamed or, didn't want to. She knew that this had to do with two big, huge, major stars, right? And it's understandable if it was from a denial sort of perspective, like he asked, "Hey, did anything happen? You okay?" And then she denied it. That's one thing, but that's not what she said happened. She said that it was complete silence. He never asked, okay? Any good father would ask some questions in this situation. She was 13 years old at the time, guys. Okay? So the father has no recollection whatsoever. All right. Another thing, at that night, there is proof through security footage that Jay-Z and P. Diddy both were at the Lotus nightclub, which is where they had an after party after the Video Music Awards. Okay? So that's the only place that authorities can prove that they were at this time. Where this lady claimed that she was assaulted at that time was definitely not at Lotus nightclub. It was at a white house, a large white house with posts, and she said a gated fence and a U-shaped driveway. That's the way she described the place where she was taken and then drugged and then sexually assaulted. Okay. Now, does that mean that they couldn't have made their way to this property a little bit later that night? No, it does not mean that. So that part is simply just notable. It doesn't mean that they were at the Lotus nightclub all night and that they didn't at some point leave and make it to this other place. But at the time they were at the Lotus nightclub, which was an after party of the VMA Music Awards, there's no little 13-year-old girl running around in sight of Jay-Z and P. Diddy. Okay, let's just put it that way. So if she did get up with them or was picked up by Diddy's limo driver, as she stated, this happened later on after the Lotus nightclub. Okay, now she has she has consented to taking a polygraph test. Okay. And a lot of people say there, well, that proves it right there. He must have done it. She wouldn't say she would take a polygraph test if she thought that she would fail the polygraph test. That means they did it. Not necessarily, because this information is also going to be disseminated, or has been disseminated, down to the defense team. So the defense team, meaning Jay-Z's lawyer and Diddy's lawyer, are also made aware that she is willing to take a lie detector test. What they're hoping, the prosecution, is that if there was any foul activity that went on at all, that they're going to look at that, meaning the defense team is going to look at that and say, if she does a lie detector, they might find something, and then you have to consider too, this was almost 25 years ago. So likely what the lie detector test would find would likely probably be completely inconclusive. Okay. Inconclusive, nor do lie detectors hold up in a court of law. And the inconclusivity could just be a result of, hey, it's been almost 25 years. I'm not real fond, I'm not remembering all of the details that took place. So that could be an explanation for that. But again, this admission, again, this being willing to take a lie detector test is simply another way to try to put the defense on their heels. Oh, she's willing to take a lie detector test. Wow, she must be really confident that these things happen to her, right? Not necessarily. This is again a hope that the defense is going to, or I'm sorry, yes, that the defense, this is in hopes that the defense is going to get cold feet and get put on their heels and say, wow, she must really know something that we don't know. She must be really convinced that she can pass this lie detector test, which that's not going to look good towards us. You know what? Let's just go ahead and what does she want? Let's just go ahead and pay this girl so that we can get this off of our plate. That's what they're hoping, that this whole being willing to take a lie detector test is going to happen. Okay. All right. Second thing, she I've already actually went over it. She claims that at the after party she spoke to Benji Madden. Okay. And the since these claims have been made, NBC has gone back and spoken to a representative of Benji and the brother, I think it's Joel Madden. Yeah, Benji and Joel Madden, and it turns out that that's impossible. They were not in New York at all the week of the VMAs back in the year 2000. They were out Midwest somewhere touring. Okay, so that's another lie. She claims to have spoken to these particular celebrities at this after party. Turns out they weren't even in town that week. They're out Midwest somewhere. Okay. The last twist that I will share with you, and then that's going to be it. We're going to wrap it up. So she did give a name and date of birth of this friend. Remember from back at the beginning, there was supposedly a friend who was 20 years old at the time that drove her to New York City, right? And from there, she kind of stood on the street, kind of watching some of the stars arrive, watching the limousines come up. She claimed to have watched some of the awards happening on like a jumbotron that was out on the street, that sort of thing, which, yeah, it's possible. It's certainly possible. And then from there, she claimed that she kind of chatted it up with some of the limo drivers and stuff like that. When that is when supposedly she came in contact somehow with P. Diddy's limo driver, who said the words, "You are exactly what he's looking for," or "You are the type," or "You fit what he is looking for. Come back here later and we'll scoop you up," sort of thing, is basically how that went down. Okay. But back to the friend. So NBC was giving a name and date of birth of the person that supposedly drove her to New York City that night to the VMA Awards, 5.5 hours from Rochester, New York. Okay. So they do their research, and NBC finds that this person has since passed away. Okay. This is 25 years ago. So this person would have had to have passed before age 55. If this is 25 years ago and this happened when she was 20, no, 45, I'm sorry. This person would have had to have passed away before age 45. Is this a coincidence? Did this accuser purposely find someone who she knew had passed away and that she knew they wouldn't be able to fact check this? They knew that they wouldn't be able to really vet these claims. You have to wonder. Oh yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, her name was so and so, and her birth date was this, so and so, knowing in the back of her mind that she attended this chick's funeral a few years back. you know, the chick's not going to be there to confirm or deny whether she actually drove her 5.5 hours to New York City, right? So anyway, I mean, that's all I've got. But I was on the treadmill this morning, and you know how you can go to these articles and you can actually hit play, and AI will read the article to you so you can listen. So I was listening as I was on the treadmill doing my cardio, and I listened to this thing probably 5 or 6 times so that I could get all the details and really regurgitate them back to you guys. So, again, this just points back to, I know Diddy is in hot water, obviously, right? Diddy is in quite a bit of trouble, and it does seem like Diddy is pretty much a shit person, right? A control freak, evil shit person. I think we all can agree on that. I can't really speak to the character of Jay-Z per se. He hasn't, his name really hasn't been mentioned in all of this until he was named as Plaintiff A by this still anonymous accuser a week or two ago, right? So I can't really speak to his character, but this just goes to show that this is leaning towards a person who is probably just trying to get a payday. I've talked about that quite a bit on this channel. A lot of people don't like to consider this, and a lot of people like to, you know, hate on me for bringing to the forefront that no, you know, sorry to disappoint you, but there are actually people out there that will lie, cheat, steal, say whatever they have to say to try to get ahead in this world. And Jay-Z is worth about $2.5 billion. Okay? In case you didn't hear that, B as in billion, not million, billion. So Jay-Z has a lot of money. Okay? So this person obviously is hoping to get even a small payout that may seem like a small payout to Jay-Z. 500 grand would be a small payout for Jay-Z. Say the attorney gets 150, 200 grand of that, and then the chick brings home $300,000. This lady admits to once being homeless, that this event happening supposedly messed up the course of her life, and she has struggled in a lot of ways in her life. So for her, that could buy her a new house. Okay? So I'm not saying for sure that she's lying or for sure that these things aren't true. And granted, yes, true. It's 24 years ago. Obviously, details can be sketchy. Obviously, people's minds are not like steel traps. It's not like a computer. Sometimes things can get twisted and distorted, and the recollection of things can get twisted and distorted. That's absolutely true. But listen, certain details, and the father came right out of his mouth and said, that's just something you would remember. Seems like you would remember, and I don't remember doing that. The father does not admit or remember driving 5.5 hours to pick up his then 13-year-old daughter. Okay. And then to drive back 5.5 hours and not even bother to ask her, are you okay? Did something happen? I'm your father. I care about you. I would like to know these things. Or do we need to contact authorities? Do we need, whatever the case is? But I find it interesting. And again, she could have refused to tell the father or been ashamed at that time to admit what had happened to her. You can certainly understand that. But That's not what she testified. She testified that the father didn't even ask. That doesn't jive with me. Any caring, sort of trustworthy, as she put it, father would absolutely be asking some questions if he had to drive 5.5 hours to pick up his 13-year-old daughter in a completely different city in the middle of the night. Okay? You're asking questions, right? Anyway, that's what I got. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This information is kind of new, it's kind of breaking. Prior to now, we've not known of all of these inconsistencies in her story, so it's not looking really good for the Jay-Z accuser. But anyway, again, you like this sort of content, subscribe to the channel if you would, like the video, and also comment down below. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for joining me. All right, peace.